Hi, friends.
This is History for the Books. I'm Katie,
I'm Allie.
and we are here with full bellies
Yep.
because it is the week after
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
You don't know why we're laughing, but we are.
I hope everyone had the best Thanksgiving
Yeah.
and ate lots of delicious food.
Yep. I hope you thought about all the Native Americans that had to die.
Well, damn.
Because here we are, still celebrating Native American Heritage Month.
We still are here. We're still talking about Native Americans. And this week is one of my all-time favorite books of this year.
I think this is my favorite book of the year.
This beats 1,000 White Women for me. It's so good.
I saw a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen those TikToks where this guy goes around town? He's like, "What's the best book you've read?
Yeah.
Or your favorite book of all time?" And this girl responded with Betty.
Did she?
Yes, at the very first one. And apparently a lot of people are commenting on it. And I literally commented on there and said, this was one of my favorite of the year. And she, I don't know, I think it's a he, commented back and was like, okay, well now I'm going to have to read it. And I was like, yeah, dog.
Yeah,
I'll send you video proof of me sobbing if you want.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's talk about that. So Allie sent the book club a video. And she was like, just ignore the tears. I have to get my thoughts out.
Katie, I might have to show you the video of me actually. Pause for a second. I just want you to see. Okay. Or you guys can listen.
Okay, here we go.
It's so bad, though. I didn't want to share this one.
I'm going to finish telling them, though. But she sent that video, and we all watched it, and Allie's sitting there in her car like, I don't know. It's just so beautiful. Like, literally sobbing.
Not even making any sense. Not even making any sense.
And I felt the same way. Like, I didn't full on cry, but I would have if I was alone.
You didn't full on cry?
Let me finish my thoughts. I would have if I was alone. My husband and my child were with me when I finished it, and I had to be strong, so I just held it together. But really,
I was listening to it at night alone.
Or I was so traumatized that I just blocked it, couldn't even handle, couldn't deal.
Yeah, so Katie was ahead of me most of the time while we were reading this. And I was literally sitting on the couch. You had came over for dinner or something, and I was like, I'm to this part. And she's like, it gets worse.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way it gets worse. And she's like, it gets worse. And I said, girl.
Yeah, I started before Allie, and I finished, I'm not sure. I finished before her, I think. But I was ahead of her when we were reading it. And so when I would hear something, I was like, man, that's going to just totally wreck Allie. That's just going to wreck her.
When did I finish this book?
October.
First or second or third or fourth?
No. Please hold.
Katie, when I tell you I sobbed, I freaking sobbed myself to sleep that night from this book. And I literally was like, snotty. I'm got a freaking snot coming out my nose now.
Yep, I just saw the video evidence, and it was real life. She had a crisis.
I didn't send that one to the book club because you can't even understand me from the snot in my nose. And there was snot leaking down my nose.
There was. Well, did we even say what the book is?
No.
Well,
we haven't made it that far.
It wrecked Allie to pieces. It crushed my soul.
Still traumatized.
But it's Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. And if you have not read this book, what are you even doing?
You probably don't want to.
No, you do want to.
It's do want
so
to.
Beautiful.
It is, but it'll wreck you. You better be over your depression streak and in a better headspace, because you're going to go through you better plan it correctly, because you'll probably go through another depression streak.
If you want, I see a lot of people asking sometimes, like, give me book recs for a book that's going to end me.
This is it.
This is one of those books. If you're in a time in your life where you want to be emotionally stripped and wrecked and just
This is
brutally
it.
tormented
This is it.
emotionally, this is your book, especially if you are a mom, I think. Or if you have.
I felt that I thought even about my siblings.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about my brothers and I was like, holy crap, what if this was me and my brother?
Yeah. See, I think it hits from every angle because you get like, if you have any sort of trauma with men, like I do, that will hit you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any kind of dad issues, it will hit you because she has such an amazing dad that like.
Such an amazing dad.
If you love your siblings,
If you have
hit
mom
you.
issues, it'll hit you.
If you have mom issues, and if you're a mom,
yeah.
No matter who you are in your family dynamics, you're gonna get something.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Tiffany
good.
McDaniel owes me compensation from my therapist because I need therapy after this book.
So, in this book, we are following the Carpenter family, and that is the father, Landon, the mom, Alka, and then their children, Freya, Flossie, Betty, Leland, Lint, and Trustin. So they have 6 kids. And this book is just a beautiful coming of age story. You follow Betty from first grade on, and you see her struggles through puberty, school, family issues.
Lots of family issues.
Yeah, tragedies. And
she's just
she's trying to find her place in the world because she is half Caucasian and half Cherokee. In the 50s, 60s, early 70s. So, this is expired. This is inspired by Tiffany McDaniel's own family.
Her own mom.
Yep. Her mom is Betty. And it's based off of a family secret that her mom told her 20 years ago. Tiffany McDaniel was only 17 when she wrote this book. Did you know that?
I watched an interview with her with somebody, and she was explaining how it took her. I didn't know she was 17 when she wrote it. Gosh dang. But I did see how it took her so long to get it published because the publishing companies were like, nobody's going to read this and this is too traumatizing, until I think it was the Me Too movement happened. And that's whenever she published it, around that time, because obviously.
Yep. She was 17. This story takes place in Breathitt, Ohio. So I'm just going to...
Along like the Appalachian of part of Ohio.
Yeah. So I'm just going to apologize ahead of time if I get distracted in my notes because there's a lot to say.
It almost reads like a memoir, but it's not a memoir. It's historic. I don't know what it would be considered. It is kind of historical fiction, I guess. It's fiction in a way, but it's based on true events to a certain extent.
Yeah. I don't know. It's such a good book. It's just hard to explain. Like if you haven't read it. Huh?
Like it's hard to explain what it is. Yeah.
But starting very early in the book, you see Betty struggling at school. She's being made fun of by her peers, even by her teachers, her siblings, and even her mom, because she takes more after her dad, who is Cherokee, and his skin is darker, and so Betty's skin is darker than any of her siblings.
Right. All her siblings are blonde, blue-eyed, fair skin, and she is darker skinned.
Yeah. And the only person who's really there for her is her dad. And Landon is the town's medicine man, and he uses like holistic medicinal techniques like teas, tinctures, like stuff like that. Um, Betty's siblings, like I said, include Leland, Freya, Flossie, Tristan, and Lind.
Mm-hmm.
They live with their mom, Alka. Alka is a very interesting character to me. I related to Alka.
I went through some stuff with Alka myself.
Same.
Like at the very beginning of the book, I was like, God, I hate her.
Yeah, same.
Despise her. She's the worst woman ever. But then slowly, as things start, she does the worst things possible. But slowly, as the book went on, I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been judging her this whole time. And she literally has so much trauma of her own. Like, no wonder she's like, it's not an excuse, I guess, to behave that way. Like, you can be different even if you have trauma. But like, she had so much trauma, and I was judging her the whole time. Like, you're the worst person. But literally, Sucker had the worst life.
Yeah, so she was sexually abused by her father.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a lot of PTSD from her past that kind of like influences the way that she is.
And how she behaves towards her kids because of that.
And like she can be warm and loving to them one minute, and then she's like so mean and horrible in the next minute, and you're like, what happened?
Right.
But I relate to her so much because like, I don't know, it's hard for me to judge her, I guess. Like she did some really awful things and I hated her too, but like after I knew what she went through, it was different because having that trauma and not knowing the appropriate way to react is so hard. And I even find myself like, you know, screaming at Parker every now and then, or because it's hard to regulate those emotions when you have stuff coming up from 15 years ago or whatever. So I understand. And she went
was
through
very much rushed into her relationship with the kids' father too.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
Also, like her past when she was sexually abused by her dad, her mom was also aiding in that and like allowing it to happen and telling her it was normal and like just being absolutely horrible as well. So she really had no one, and now she is expected to just be a mom, and she never had a mom to show her the right way to raise a kid, and so she doesn't know.
Like, and I don't know, the dad, what is his name again? It's Leland, right?
Landon,
that's it. Landon is so nice to her, so kind, and actually like treats her like a husband should treat his wife. And I think that she's not used to anybody being so kind to her, so that kind of throws her off and makes her feel bad too.
And I was gonna say too,
she's even mean to Landon sometimes, but Landon is very almost understanding of her situation kind of thing.
And I was also gonna say, like, the love between Landon and Alka is so real. Like, you can just tell that they love each other so much. And they've been through a lot together.
Of course, I think Landon loves anybody that he comes across.
Yeah, Landon's just the best.
Landon's the best.
So let me see. She struggles with motherhood. She tries to kill herself a couple of times.
Multiple times.
Which, I mean, her issues that she's facing do rub off on her children, though. You can tell it kind of like passes on, which is something I'm so afraid of happening to my kids, so that hit me hard too. But her oldest son, Leland, is, I mean, should I say it?
I don't know. That was such a, did you see that coming?
No.
Dude, me neither. That was such a major plot twist.
So no.
I don't think you should, because I want everybody else to be traumatized.
There is something with the oldest son, Leland, that I'm not going to say, but he is like biggest piece of shit.
Oh, right.
Ever. I will say that, because he is. He's.
Are you talking about the plot twist or what he does?
The plot twist.
Oh, yeah. Don't tell the plot twist.
Yeah.
But what he does to what's her face?
He is actually sexually abusing Freya, and he tries with Betty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she catches on to what's happening to Freya, that's whenever he's like, okay, well, if you say anything, I'm going to do it to you too. So,
yeah. But there's a whole lot to say, and I don't even know like what to hit on and what not to. So I'm just reading the notes that I made.
it's fine. We'll hit on it afterwards. Just read the notes, and then I'll see if I can come up with some
Freya
stuff.
and Betty, they have such a cute relationship. And they have such a big age gap, so it's really like big sister, like baby sister vibes. And Freya is really like the older sister that you always wish you would have had.
When Alka goes on her tangents kind of things, I felt like Freya really stepped up as like mom.
Yep, she would like make the dinner and clean up the house and like whatever she needed to do.
Right.
She
very much the oldest daughter situation.
Yeah. But later Freya ends up pregnant with Leland's baby because again he was sexually assaulting her, and she decides that she can't have that baby.
Right.
She takes matters into her own hands and almost dies because of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to tell what she does to get rid of it.
Oh no, so this is where I said Alka pissed me off because it was, I don't know if you caught on to this, but when Alka is explaining to Freya, like, oh, well, you know why she needed, so since their dad's a medicine man or the guy who has all these herbal remedies and stuff, there was a woman who had came to him for bark that was supposed to make her go to the bathroom. And when Betty is asking why she needed that bark, Alka is like, oh, well, she needed to go to the bathroom, but do you know that it also, if you accidentally get pregnant, you can shove it up your vagina and it'll get rid of the baby too? And she says that as Freya is in the room. So my logic was that Alka knew the whole time that this was happening to Freya, because like when she said that, I felt like it was intentional. Maybe not, but that's what I gathered, that Alka knew that this was going on and she didn't say anything because that's what happened to her.
Which would be very Alka.
Yeah, that exactly. So what Freya does is she does use the bark because she is pregnant, and
it almost kills her.
Yeah.
Like it cuts her up. She's bleeding. It's bad. They have to call the doctor in and everything. But the abuse doesn't stop after she's healed.
Nope. Trauma more.
She ends up getting pregnant again by Leland. Okay. And this time she's like, I'm gonna keep the baby because I almost died getting rid of the last one. Like, so she decides that she is going to keep the baby.
Wait, what? That actually happened?
What?
Did I skip over that part?
I guess so, because remember she was living in that little apartment above the cafe, and
but she didn't have the baby, right?
No, she didn't have the baby.
Okay, I thought you said she had the baby, and I was like, wait a second.
Keep the baby.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I understand.
And then, gosh, I don't know what to say and not skip, and I feel like I'm skipping everywhere, but there's so much.
And I feel like in this book too, it skips.
It does, but
it's
something absolutely horrendous happens. I don't know if I should say what
I don't know either. I don't know, because there's so much trauma in it.
So many horrible things happen in this book that you begin to think like, okay, something good has to be coming.
It doesn't.
But I also don't want to spoil all of the bad stuff because it's not going to hit them as hard if I'm just like, okay, this happened. Yeah. Like, go read it.
Is this the part I sobbed at?
No.
Oh.
This is
Oh. I don't know, because something happens to all of them.
I know. It's true. Like every sibling has something happen to them.
Yeah.
That's absolutely horrible.
Right.
Nobody comes out unscathed.
No.
Okay, well, something horrible happens to Freya. Long story short, she does not have that baby.
No.
So, anywho. But each of these kids have their own personality, and it makes you just fall in love with them. Like Freya's a singer, Flossie's an actress. She's not very good, but she is. Tristan is an artist, and Lint has his own special weirdness about him, which I think is like, I don't know if he had like OCD. I thought maybe OCD or like a tinge of like maybe autism.
Yeah.
He is just so cute.
I
loved
thought
him.
At first whenever they were talking about him, I thought he was schizophrenic. Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe still think that, but maybe OCD too, since he was always like something. I got skin crawlers or whatever, you know. So.
Yeah, I initially thought schizophrenic too, and then by the end of the book, when he is grown up, he still has like the tendencies to keep everything like lined up or whatever, but he's no longer like, I have lizard skin, you know. So I don't know.
It made me think some kind of mental illness.
Yeah. And then Betty, she's a writer and a storyteller like her father. And I got really attached to most all of these characters. It was hard to put the book down, especially after I found out that these people all really existed.
Yeah. This whole family, these are not made up characters. Like the conversations are somewhat made up, but these are exactly how the people were.
But there are so many tragedies in this book that had me literally sobbing, and I felt so bad for all of these children. I wanted to just like wrap them all up in a hug. I felt so bad for them. Landon is the father that I wish that I had.
Landon is perfection. Literally, I don't know, almost too perfect. I felt like at some points he saw the good in every single person too much. Like when things were going on between Freya and Landon or Leland, I almost felt like Landon didn't even want to see that.
Yeah.
You know?
The only time that I felt that Leland was like even slightly aggressive or anything was when we got kind of like a flashback to when Alka and him met, and he like, I think he punched somebody to get on the bus or something. Like when they very first met and they were meeting on that bus.
He punched her dad.
Or maybe that's
like choked him and stuff and almost killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, and even then he's doing it to protect Alka.
Right.
So like he is never aggressive.
Which like rightfully so, since you know he was sexually assaulting her.
He is always like, he's such a good dad.
Yeah. I know, girl. He said, "Take my boots off." Yeah, and I cried. Take off my boots. It's gonna hit me harder. Like now. Oh God, now I'm gonna cry. Okay. I just need to stop thinking about it for a second. I was literally thinking about my grandpa. Yeah, anyways, what was I saying?
Let's
I was gonna say something about Landon. Oh, I was gonna say he went to go work in the mines, and he was like getting punched and stuff
because
he's Cherokee, and he had to call Alka and be like, "Hey, come get me." And she's like, "What the hell's going on now? Piece of shit, can't even work, yada yada." And he was like literally almost beaten to death. Yeah, because these guys in the mines like beat him for being Cherokee, and he's like, literally, our skins are exactly the same, covered in coal dust. So
that was like
yeah, legit. So I was like, dang. Anyways,
So all of the siblings, you see all of them grow. You see all of them grow up. You see all of their struggles. Like Flossie, she was the actress, always super like dramatic, funny. She's so funny as a kid. Um, and then she grows up and she goes to like be an actress or whatever. Alka's telling her you're never gonna make it. Like you're basically screwed from the start.
Yeah.
And she ends up getting pregnant and getting married instead. And she ends up taking more of an Alka route of motherhood, which was horrible. She, I don't know. She ends up at one point trying to murder her son.
Yeah.
On a train track.
Oh, she tied his shoelaces to the train track, right? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Just so she could get rid of him. And the whole time she's like,
and go to California.
She's like, you're going to be bright as a star. Like, the whole time, like talking to him as the train's coming, and Betty has to like save him. And all of it is just, it's all, I don't even know.
He doesn't die though, does he?
No.
But he does he die?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't remember.
No, he doesn't. I think he just has brain injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I'll spoil this part because he's not like a super main character, but he's bouncing on the bed and they're living in an apartment with concrete floors, and he bounces off the bed and hits his head on the concrete floor, and Flossie's like, "You're fine, get up." And he doesn't get up, and she's like, "Get up, you dumb piece of shit, yada yada," like
he's like 5, by the way.
He's like 5, yeah, and he doesn't get up, and so I think she take him to the she leaves for work.
Yeah, and the babysitter finds him.
Yeah.
Or whoever it was that found him.
And the mother-in-law ended up taking care of him. And I think he didn't die, but he had like brain.
He was not the same.
Yeah, he had like brain injuries and stuff.
Yeah, it was so sad. So basically, you'd get freaking whiplash from every angle in this book. Like, it's going to make you cry. It's going
I'm gonna
to
cry right now just thinking about it.
I'm gonna just read some quotes really quick while you think of something else to say.
I don't have anything to say.
I have a lot of quotes though.
Traumatized. Yeah, let me see if I can pull up my review.
Okay.
So basically we're not doing a history portion for this because it is based on like her real life events. So
it's her real family.
Yeah. Okay. And also I tried to email this author, but I think she's writing a new book. And like when I submitted on her author's page, like a little doodad, it was like, this author is currently busy, so it might take her longer to get to these emails. And I never heard anything back, but I was going to try to maybe interview her for this, but that didn't happen. So we're just going to talk about the book and her life. And I might link her author's page because she does have pictures of like her family.
No way.
Yes. And Lint, even though he's grown up in this picture, he is almost exactly how I imagined him in my head.
We have to go look at them.
Okay, I will. It's so good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I have quotes here. But I had learned that just because time has moved forward, it does not mean something so terrible ever gets easier to bear.
Yeah.
I have, my father's hands were soil, my mother's were rain. No wonder they could not hold one another without causing enough mud for two. And yet out of that mud, they built us a house that became a home.
Yeah. They were so opposite of each other. They were so hot and cold. It was like, this will never work, but they
did.
They did. They very much complemented each other.
This was one of my favorites. One day, I told him, God will turn out all the lights to remind people like you that in the dark, you won't be able to tell who is white like you and who ain't. We'll have to treat one another equally. We'll learn it's not our skin color that makes us good or bad, and only when we learn that will God turn the lights back on.
Is that when he gets beat up in the mine?
Betty says this to somebody.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
she's right.
Yep.
Literally, if you're in a dark room, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Funny that she should be in sheet, ain't it? I reckon it's just another way to lay on a woman and get away with it.
Mm.
That was like, God.
Mm-hmm.
Boys are like that, always trying to pretend they're saving girls from something. They never seem to realize that we can save ourselves.
Yeah.
And then there are too many enemies in life to be one of yourself. I loved
That's
that
true.
one. And then the last one I had was, don't ever be afraid to be yourself. You don't want to live so long only to realize you never lived at all.
There's a lot of good.
So many good quotes. It was so hard to pick which ones I
Yeah.
wanted to include.
Yeah.
I did also want to say that Tiffany McDaniel is the granddaughter of who she calls Mama Alka.
Mm-hmm.
So Alka is actually her grandma, and she is the daughter of Betty, like
Mhm.
I said. The poem that is included in the beginning of the book, called My Broken Home, is
Mhm.
actually written by Betty. Did you know that?
I
I didn't know that until I
didn't-
saw that, and I was like,
I don't know if I saw that on her page or what. No, I don't think I knew that.
yeah, it's written by Betty, the real one. There's a dog howling. Okay, read me your review.
Okay, so I was like looking for this review in my notes. I looked for it on Goodreads. I was like, I know I posted a review. I didn't, but I kept it in my notes. My review is probably not finished, but it says, I will never be the same.
Literally.
This book tore through me like a knife. And I got emotionally attached to every single character in this book. Every single one. When I say I hated Leland as much as Betty hated Leland in that second, that's the truth.
Sorry.
I said these people were my family, my siblings, my friends. I also felt like in this video that I showed Katie of me sobbing hysterically, I was talking about how the main character, I felt like not a lot of trauma happened to her. She didn't have like
not directly
to her, but the way that her sister comes to her mom comes to her brothers come to her and trauma dump everything on her.
She's just forced to bear the weight of everybody's trauma,
which almost makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because she's literally getting the trauma of her entire family to bear.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that made it 10 times worse for her, and that like just made me sob.
And she's forced to like keep everything a secret too.
Yes.
She writes it down, puts it in a jar, and buries it in their yard. But
it's like, yeah, she's forced to keep it a secret, but at the same time she knows it's wrong and she wants to do something about it. But the minute like she wanted to tell about Freya and Leland for so long.
Yeah.
But every time that she would, Freya's like, I'm going to kill myself if you tell.
Yeah, Freya literally said, if you tell that Leland is raping me, I will kill myself and it will be your fault. That's...
I can't even, like
it will be your fault that I'm dead.
She's like 10.
Yeah.
And like 11 and 13, like
yeah.
She's not even a teenager yet when all this is happening. Also, I thought the timeline of this book, my only complaint, the timeline of this book was really weird. When she was telling the birth dates in the 30s, I thought this book was set in the 30s for a while until I realized it's not.
Yeah, and I thought it was too. I thought it was like Great Depression, like
that's what
we're in the thick of it, but it's not. It's literally in the 60s,
right?
50s, 60s, 70s.
So like that was my only complaint. It threw me off. I said, of course, to top it off, Betty had her own trauma and her own mistakes. I said, I just don't even know what to say. I can't put into words how like amazing, poetic, dreadfully wonderful this book was to read. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. And I said I wish this app would let me add videos and pictures of me sobbing uncontrollably during multiple occasions.
Mhm.
I had two quotes. One is I think this is from Alka, and she says, "Sometimes I think the universe is just a glow." Oh no, it might be from Flossie. Okay, sometimes I think the universe is just a glow, the glow of a cigarette in the dark, all the stars, the planets, the galaxies, and the infinite edges are all in a small glowing tip of a cigarette in the hand of a man leaning back against the wall, watching a girl go on her way home, knowing she'll never get there.
Yep.
That is so sad.
And so true.
And so true. This man just casually leaning against the wall, looking at this little girl on her way home, knowing that her whole life is about to be changed. Because all of these girls, even we skipped over that, but Flossie also got R-worded.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Flossie is different because she's like, I don't know.
She's almost okay with. She's like, well, it's gonna happen eventually. It happened to every single other female in my.
She's like very meh about it. She's just like, oh, it's just something that happens to girls. Got my turn. Like, like every girl gets raped. I just got.
If that tells you the trauma level of this book, that Flossie is okay with this happening to her because it's just like Alka thinking, oh, well, every dad
does this.
Yeah. This is my last quote, and it is the quote that will stick with me for the rest of my life. I will never forget this quote. ACOTAR is one of my favorite series, and I don't think that I really have like a super impactful quote that I can remember off the top of my head. But this one,
I'm excited to see which one it is.
It literally says, it's Landon saying it, and it says, "You're still a newborn, an infant, and you can't go yet. You haven't drawn." Oh God,
I'll read it. You're still a newborn, an infant. You can't go yet. You haven't drawn all the hills. You haven't mapped the river. Wake up, my boy. Oh my God. Tears.
I'm literally so traumatized by this book. Let me just laugh while I cry so that it seems a little bit better.
Yeah, this book, whenever we picked it for the podcast, I don't think we had any idea what we were getting ourselves into, because it's a hard read, but it is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's so poetic. It's so life altering.
Like,
I'm emotionally traumatized by this book, Katie. And I know I keep saying that, but like legit, I don't cry. But let me just cry during this freaking quote. This is the same one that I was sobbing over.
Yep. Yeah, this is the quote that did her in the first time. She thought it'd be a good idea to conclude
to read it on the book. Anyways,
if you couldn't already guess, we both gave this book 5 stars.
I would give this book infinity stars if I could.
It's probably my favorite book I've read so far.
I'm telling you right now, if I read this book, I'm so glad I read it when I did. Because if I read this book right now, Katie and I would not be doing this podcast. I would be in a dark hole and never come out.
Yeah. Imagine me reading it in that depression I was in.
Dude, Katie would be unalived right now.
Yeah.
She would be.
So if you're going to read this book, you have to make sure that you are mentally okay enough to withstand other people's trauma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you have any trauma and you are not in a good spot with it, I would not read this book at all. Not until you like get in a right headspace with it.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. And I don't even have any trauma. I don't even have any trauma and I sobbed.
Yeah. It's one of the only books ever that has given me full body chills.
Mm-hmm.
You'll only hear me say that with one other book, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, wow, I did not expect that.
And only the ending gave me
Oh.
chills of that book. But this book, the whole time, I was like, ooh, like the whole time. So, yeah.
Yep. And at first, whenever I first started reading it, I was like, meh, this doesn't make any sense. I don't even know
So
what's
did
going
I. When
on.
I first started it, I remember texting you, like, what are we reading?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah. And now it's one of my most favorite books, I think, of all time. Not even just this year, like all time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books.
It's definitely one that I will always remember. It will always stick with me. If anybody asks me if I have a book recommendation for them, it would be this one if I know that they're mentally stable enough to handle it. I would recommend Betty over ACOTAR.
I think I would too.
And I love ACOTAR.
Same. Literally same.
So that says a lot.
Yeah. If you're not if you're not, I look for books that are going to wreck me. I do that to myself because I want to feel something. I'm not a happy, feel good kind of girl. If the ending is the two people getting together and living happily ever after,
she don't want it.
It's a 1 star for me. Okay? So again, if you're a happily ever after girly, this ain't for you.
I will say my only complaint with this book, the ending felt very abrupt for me. That was my only thing.
I think that is because how do you end a story that the characters are still alive and going, you know?
Yeah, I get that too.
But it was very abrupt ending.
That's the only thing that I would criticize this book on. Other than that, Tiffany McDaniel created freaking literary masterpiece.
17?
At 17 years old.
I don't know how.
But then it makes me question, okay, so like Betty is her mom, right? And Betty is portrayed as this like amazingly like strong, incredibly smart character person. But to kind of trauma dump that on your 17-year-old daughter, that's a very Alka move.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I wonder if she is more affected by Alka and more like Alka than she is portrayed in the book.
Well, I think in one of the author interviews, she said she was asking her mom for this information. So
okay, so maybe that's what
I think that that's what was going on. I don't think that she probably told her the secret, and then that probably influenced her to ask more. I wanted to ask her if like this big secret
is in the book
if this the secret that we didn't tell about if that is like actually true, if that was the big, like what was the big secret, because honestly so many things happened during this book that it was like, is that the big secret? Surely that's not made up. Just
maybe whenever she gets to a spot where she can respond to people, she might hopefully answer
she doesn't even have an Instagram right now. I think she shut it down because she's trying to focus on her life. But
she might answer your request and maybe we'll get an answer. And if we do, obviously we'll keep you updated. If we don't, then just read the book and
I'll
make
just
your
harass
own.
her until
Tiffany
she responds. We've had a lot of luck with authors following us. So
I really hope Amy liked her
I know
episode. I haven't heard anything from her.
That's maybe good. I don't know.
But anywho, do you have anything else to say about Betty?
I have so many things to say about Betty, but not enough time to say them.
I know.
I feel like we didn't tell you a lot,
But it's for a reason.
but it's for, yeah.
You're not going to feel it as hard if you read this book and we've already told you all of these gut-wrenching things. You're not going to feel it, and I want you to feel it.
I want to know if you get to the part where I sobbed. I want to know if that's where you sobbed too. That's what I want to know. I just want to know how everybody feels about this book in general.
Mm-hmm. If you hear Allie's quote and you are crying when it happens,
I didn't
let
even
us
listen to you
know.
read it because I said if I listen to her read this, I'm going to cry more.
You did cry more.
I know. I've almost cried 2 times on this podcast from this.
Yeah. Well, anywho, that's all we have for you this week. And we thank you for listening. And this is it for November.
Yeah, and then it's going to be December.
Oh,
wowee. Do we have freaking gifts for you guys?
Gifts for all. I was going to ask, Allie, surprise, by the way.
What the?
I'm going to do a poll, I think, and see if the people would want a live podcast episode.
Yeah.
We've been throwing that idea around.
People have asked us to do that.
Because we have some of the most popular books that everybody loves coming up in December.
We love too.
Yes. And I think it would be fun if we included our viewers and listeners in the recording process, and we were able to answer questions live.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
I know.
But we're kind of throwing it around. So if you have made it this far in the episode and you want a say in that,
we'll put a poll up on Facebook.
We will put a poll up and you can have a say.
I feel like we should do, for sure, a live, but then I wonder if there's a way that you can take the audio from that and make it a actual podcast to put on Spotify or not. I don't know.
I'm sure there is, but
we'll figure it out. AKA, I'll figure it out. I'll research since, I'm the one.
Okay, well, we will see you in December.
Yes.
Wowza. And that's all. Adios.
It'll be my birthday.
Yeah.
On that episode. So.
Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Okay. Adios.